This is a preliminary report on Reid's case number 631. It's a very interesting case. I do not know what was done here. This is the preoperative x-rays and cone beams, large area. This is how I got the tooth in formalin. I don't know what was done here, but I'm inferring because of the way the instrument is done that the mesiolingual canal was minimally instrumented and the other canals were maybe using larger files. My preoperative x-rays show that the one canal has not been instrumented very much. According to our method, we sagittally split all the roots. This is the mesial root. So you can see in the mesiolingual canal, looks like there was still quite a bit of pulp tissue. And the mesiobuccal canal looked very, very clean. The debris you see on the mesial canal is from the sectioning. This is a fragment of the mesial root, and this is what the distal root looked like. I'll go over more of this in the final report. These are what they look like dehydrated. So you can see a lot of that debris on the mesiobuccal canal is from the sectioning. So I'm not going to spend much time looking at that because it's hard to interpret. These are what they look like mounted and then sputter coated. And then when you look at these sputter-coated samples, they correspond fairly well to the actual uh, photographs of the two sections. This is the distal canal, one half of the sagittal split. And then I'm going to show a little bit under the electron microscope because I'm going to be looking mostly in the apical area of the mesial in distal roots. And during the final report, I'll go into these areas in a little more detail. And you can see on the mesiolingual canal, there's some pulp tissue still there. And it wasn't an ideal split, so we weren't able to examine the entire canal, but we were able to look at it enough. And then when you look at the high resolution pictures and go into the terminus of the mesiolingual canal, you see there's some pulp tissue fibers, but if you look carefully in it's also a biofilm, quite a bit of bacterial morphotypes in with the collagen fibers of the pulp. So it was really just impregnated with a biofilm in the mesiolingual canal. In another area you look at, and when you go in very, very tightly, you can see that it's a fairly well entrenched biofilm. Doesn't look particularly healthy, uh, but there are a lot of bacterial morphotypes. Then when you look at the uh, mesiobuccal canal that looks like it had been instrumented to a larger size and instrumented very well, but when you go into the debris on the canal wall, you can still see a lot of bacterial morphotypes in the debris sitting on the canal wall. This is back to the mesiolingual canal where we can actually get a look at the mineralization front. And this was pretty interesting. When you go in and look at this, you see these cells on top of the demineralization front. And those are actually odontoblastic processes that have not been removed. And there's significant demineralization of the mineralization front there. This is the fragment of the mesiobuccal canal near the terminus. And when you go into that area, you can see a fairly extensive biofilm just impregnated into the mineralization predentin area that's being demineralized. This is the distal canal right near the terminus, and you can see some pulpal tissue still there. But against the canal wall, when we looked at the canal wall, you see a very impregnated canal wall with a massive biofilm. So this was a pretty interesting case. I'm dying to know what irrigation technology he used here because there was significant demineralization taking place. So that's the case, and we'll wait for Reid to post his clinical notes.